Hey, Miles here at Tactical Hyve, and today I want to talk to you about iron sights, specifically combat sights versus target sights. Today we're talking about iron sights, and if you shopped around in any online store or any physical gun store, you've probably seen two very common types of iron sights. One with a fiber optic at the end, as this one does. It has a red fiber optic, and then one that has like tritium. It kind of glows here, those bright green dots. Those are common, different types of front sights and rear sights. They might have some tritium as well that glow in the dark. But what is not often discussed is the difference between combat sights and target sights. And this deals with the width of your front sight as well as how wide the rear notch is on your gun. And there's pros and cons to each, but it depends also where you're coming from. Meaning, are you shooting for precision, long distances? Are you in it for strictly self-defense and just getting on target? So there's pros and cons, and there's really no right or wrong sights. It just depends on your use case and what's comfortable for you. So this video is just to share some of the major differences that you're going to hear when talking with people. But once again, at the end of the day, it's really going to come down to you personally and what you're using it for. So right now I'm holding my Glock 34 with iron sights on top, and it has target sights. Target sights will typically have a very thin front sight, and the rear sight notch, the width, will be very tight. The reason being is that you want the highest degree of precision when shooting. This is more for plinkers, maybe from longer distances, because if you can imagine a big dot, imagine a really big dot the size of the Tactical Hyve logo on my shirt. Imagine that was the front sight. So if you put that entire big dot on the logo here, but you wanted to hit specifically a point in this logo, you wouldn't be able to do it. It'd be much more difficult because your entire front sight is covering the whole target. But if you had a really thin front sight, which is maybe just the width of one of these hexagons, these inner hexagons, then you can pinpoint with more precision exactly where you want to hit. You're not covering the entire target. So the front sight, with a thinner front sight on target sights, you're able to really dial in where you want to hit. The rear sight also helps with that as well in terms of precision, where there's less margin for error. If you shoot iron sights, you know that you want to see your front sight through the rear sight notch. Imagine if you have a big rear sight, you need to be very precise in understanding that your front sight, the notch, is in the middle, exactly in the middle of your rear sight. If you have, so this is, I'm the front sight post right now, okay? My entire body. If the rear sights were this wide here and there's a lot of light in between, rear sights are on this side and that side, okay? You need to have that front sight exactly in the middle to hit exactly what you want. So if you're shooting quickly, you may not actually have that equal height, equal light. It might be something like this. So the rear sights are my hands. I'm the center front post of the front sight. It might be something like this where you're kind of off. You're not actually dead on target with your front sight or your sights in general in terms of sight alignment. Now, if you have a thinner rear sight where the rear sight notch is smaller, that is going to give you more precision because there's less room for error. So if you see your front sight through your rear sight notch, most likely it's going to be centered. It's going to be more centered so that you'll be on target. Whatever you're aiming at, there's a better chance of you hitting it. Less margin of error. So that sums up the major features of target sights. Once again, it's more for precision, and generally speaking, you might have more time and maybe it's long distance shooting, but you can use target sights for defensive situations as well in applications. Let's talk about combat sights. This is a Glock 19 Slide, one of my carry guns that has combat sights here, and they're specifically ones with tritium that the sights will glow in the dark so I can have reference when I can't really see, there's not a lot of light. And the benefit of combat sights is faster target acquisition. First, you have a big, thick front sight. It's much thicker than the target sights that I have on my Glock 34. That allows me to pick up the front sight much faster, and it allows me to just understand that I just want that front sight, that big post, anywhere on my threat, okay, or my target. And when I take the shot, it may not be precise, but it's going to be on target. So it allows me to get that faster acquisition and take that shot. The rear sight notch is going to be generally wider too. once again, to get faster target acquisition. We are not looking for your front sight post in a defensive situation where you have to shoot really, really quick, maybe from closer distances, where it has to be exactly in the middle, right? Perhaps I'm really close, where as long as my front sight is anywhere in between my rear sight notch, I'll be able to hit my target. Again, it might not be precise, but you hit your target. So that's the major difference between combat sights and target sights. For combat sights, the major pro is faster target acquisition. If you see your sights on target, even if they're not perfectly aligned from a certain distance, you will be able to hit your threat. The downside to the combat sights is you're going to have less precision. There is definitely more room for error because of that wider rear sight notch. Your front sight may not be exactly in the middle, so that you might not have the most precise shot. With target sights, just the complete opposite. You're going to have a higher degree of precision. You're going to have more room for error in the sense that if you see your front sight between your rear sight notch, that means you're pretty much dialed in, because everything is going to be tighter from the rear sight. And the front sight, since it's thinner, it allows you to put that front sight with more precision on top of exactly what you want to hit. Now the downside is, because things are a little bit smaller, maybe it's going to be harder to pick up, and because the rear sight notch is tighter, if you're in a very stressful situation, maybe you don't have your sights lined up right away, whereas with combat sights you would. So you're not going to have that faster target acquisition. So for the iron sight shooters out there who are maybe just getting into shooting and you've read combat sights, target sights, fiber optic sights, this is the main difference. I hope the video helps you out and gives you an idea of what you want to get for your particular application. Let me know what you guys think about the video in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next one.